Hello everyone, and welcome back to the history of the Jebus family. Well, last time we saw King Doctor the Griffin of Sicily, with only Malta and some lands owned by the Pope himself, separating Jebus from the complete control over all of his de jure lands. But before he could deal with that, something much more pressing came about. The declaration of the First Crusade, Crusade for Pomerania, would kick off in 10 months, and Jebus had pledged his arms for the coming conflict. So let us continue now and see how this grand expedition took place. In preparation for this, King Doctor appointed his knight Rainulf as Master of the Horse, hoping to improve the effectiveness of his cadre of knights. As if in a sign to the coming times, in March, Dr. Jebus's chaplain brought to his attention that the cooked meal for Doctor that evening was emblazoned with the face of none other than the Lord Jesus. Doctor became quick friends with the Archbishop of Sicily and would take around the so-called delicious face of Jesus for the rest of his reign. And once again, Kaiser Ulrich wrote another poem about King Doctor. A strange choice for the Emperor to make shortly after founding the Knights Templar, but Doctor took it in his stride. On the 28th of August 1096, Richard, the man who had slain Doctor's younger son, died of his wounds following his violent duel with Doctor himself. Then on the 11th of November 1096, it was finally time for the Crusade to assemble and march on Pomerania. Although Doctor had no more heirs to appoint as his claimant to the future throne, he still gathered his armies as well as the Knights Templar and sailed north. It would be a long trip before they reached their destination. They would sail from Sicily, around the Cape of Spain, through the English Channel, and finally through the Holy Roman Empire, before arriving in Pomeria. Before Doctor's troops could arrive, the first major battle of the Crusade was fought at Tangamundi. It was a great victory for the Crusaders. Though taking heavy casualties, they saw off the Pomerian forces. By July 1097, Doctor's troops crossed the border not into Pomeria, but into Pomeria's allies. The Lutusians had joined the war with their pagan allies. Second major battle was fought in Brezina of October that year, again leading to a victory for the Crusaders, but an incredibly close fight, saved only by the fortunate arrival of the armies of the Scottish king. However, Doctor's forces did claim the first solid victory, taking the county of Ucrea's fort, allowing them to push into Pomeria itself. And outside the gates of Prenzalu, Doctor's forces faced off alone against the retreating Pomerians. It was a long and bloody conflict, as enemy reinforcements continuously arrived. The Battle of Prenzlau was another bloody engagement, but a decisive victory for the Crusaders. For a loss of just under 600 men, Doctor's forces killed over 3,000 Pomerians. The great battle saw Doctor rise to great acclaim across the Crusade. However, it did cost him Count Joffrey was wounded in the battle and died by the end of the fighting. Second battle took place in April of 1098. Again, Doctor's troops, despite being heavily outnumbered, won the day. And fittingly, in the battle, Doctor's troops seized the enemy banner, which he promptly added to his collection. The Second Battle of Prenzlau was a decisive defeat for the Pomerians, who are now beginning to run short of their troops. The Third Battle of Prenzlau in June followed the same pattern, enemy taking heavy losses and Doctor's troops remaining in control of the field. Prenzlau Castle finally fell in July of that year, Doctor seizing a religious artifact. Doctor finally crossed the border into Pomerania proper, who'd be forever known as a Crusader. In December 1098, victory was declared in Pomerania, although Doctor contributed more than any others because he was unable to provide a claimant who was not one of his direct heirs. He gained nothing from the battle itself. The English King Robert was appointed to be King of Pomerania. However, although he did not keep any lands, Doctor was rewarded both in prestige and religious faith, and in a large amount of spoils that were taken and split amongst the Crusaders. To celebrate this success, Doctor founded a Holy Order of Knights to continue the fighting. He gave them their headquarters in Girionti, which also got rid of one of his troublesome Muslim vassals. And so the Knights Hospitaller were formed. The rest of Doctor's war chest was spent on a series of building works, building a castle at Castellafimi and a new church at Castellienta, as well as a brand new royal set of armour known as King Doctor's Shiny Mail, an exquisite piece of craftsmanship. The turn of 1100 AD, 58-year-old Doctor declared war on the Sheikh of Malta. Despite Doctor having to lead an assault from the shore, his troops routed the enemy armies at Malta. As the war was won in January of 1101, Doctor repeated his previous practice of demanding immediate conversion of his new vassal. Unsurprisingly, the Count refused, and so war was declared. While conducting the siege personally, word finally reached Doctor that a mace he had ordered into production was finally done. The illustrious Norman mace entered his possession. And with that, the last holdout of Muslim-occupied Sicily was defeated. While holding court in 1102, Doctor came across an interesting position. A foreigner named Ahmed Sulamid claimed to be the rightful heir to the throne of Citra, and what is more, he said he would swear fealty to Doctor if Doctor was able to reclaim his lands. This gave Doctor a great opportunity to expand beyond Sicily itself, and so he jumped at the chance. Raising his armies and the Knights Hospitaller, Doctor prepared for war. Coming ashore in early May, Doctor's forces routed the enemy at Sulam, capturing 2 chieftains. And then at the Battle of Tobruk, the High Chieftain himself was captured, bringing an end to the very brief war. And thus Sicily gained a foothold in North Africa, and as part of the deal, Doctor demanded that his new subject Ahmed convert to Christianity. However, upon returning from the war, Doctor found himself aching, signs of age slowly growing. But gratefully for the Jebus dynasty, Prince Krisky had a son. Osborne had been born. Intelligent and comely, finally the realm had a male heir. Eager to upgrade the capital, Doctor started construction of a trade port, with eyes to later move on to build stables and perhaps even jousting grounds. Doctor's health continued to degrade, as in 1103, after suffering a mental breakdown and visiting a local brothel, Doctor contracted the lover's pox. However, his chosen replacement on the throne of Citra was soon overthrown by its original claimant. When the new vassal refused to convert, Doctor attempted to have him imprisoned. This simply led to another war. The war was once again ended rapidly when the Duke was once again captured. After nearly 100 years since the Norman conquest of Sicily, the two cultures began to blend together into the Normanno-Sicilian culture. In 1105, the Sicilian peasants revolted against high taxes. Doctor responded by rallying his troops. And while the battle was raging, Dr. Jebus died of a heart attack, the realm passing on to his only surviving son, Krisky. 37-year-old Krisky had inherited some of his father's intelligence and had been on campaign as a Crusader. Although not anywhere near as brilliant a strategist as his father, Krisky was still a very capable commander, known for his bravery, although also decried for being lazy and arbitrary. So far he had fathered 2 children, Hermione and Osborne. Desperately wanting to secure his dynasty, Krisky turned his focus to his family, aware that his line was all too fragile. And with the fall of Doctor, our story enters a new age. But for the story of Krisky and his attempts to hold on to power, we will have to wait until next time. I hope you join me then. Until then, take care and farewell.